After a nearly 2-week trip to China, Dothan Mayor Mike Schmitz back in the Circle City. He traveled with 3 other southern mayors to build relationships overseas and ultimately recruit Chinese companies to the Wiregrass. News 4's Rachel Yonkunas traveled exclusively with them to the Far East. She's back to tell us about the trip. Rachel?
Reg, in the past, there's been a disconnect between the U.S. and China, but that's slowly changing as both sides begin to realize they complement each other. The United States and China have a history of uneasy feelings. Most recently, the Pentagon accused the Chinese government of spying. 1 month later, President Barack Obama and his Chinese counterpart, President Xi Jinping, met for a weekend in California. They discussed those issues and built a unique relationship. But has our mistrust grown so far, we lost the chance at diplomatic relations? Truth is, not all of the East feels so coldly towards the West. Building relationships is the first step to bridging the gap between Americans and Chinese. That's the foundation of the Southern Mayor's trip to China.
We're doing it the right way, and we are the right group of people to do it.
It becomes a domino effect.
Spanning less than 10 days and 3,000 plus miles, hitting 6 different cities.
It's not for the faint of heart. It's not for those who don't like bus rides.
I think knowing is the first step.
Meeting hundreds of Chinese companies, touring different facilities in search of the perfect fit.
This hasn't happened before.
Hundreds of new jobs coming to our region.
Building trust, making friendships.
It's not about face, it's not about commercial, but it's about the real meaning.
And ultimately, securing American jobs through direct Chinese investment.
They'll come and open a business in our community, hire our people, sell their product.
While U.S. government officials address problems at the top, Southern mayors can work at the bottom, building bridges.
I think these kind of people-to-people relationship goes a long way to combating biases, prejudices.
The whole world's changing.
Very impressive and
but they're also companies
I also toured some schools.
To connect the 2 most important powers of tomorrow.
And the merging of these 2 countries starts in the South. Mayor Schmitz says he accomplished his #1 goal, selling the symposium in March. At least 100 more companies signed up for the event during our trip, and tomorrow we'll take a closer look at those business meetings overseas. Reg?
Rachel, thanks a lot. Now, 3 other mayors, as Rachel said, accompanied Mayor Schmitz on this trip. Together, they competed against 5 countries for Chinese investment. To learn more about the visit, though, just visit our web channel, WTVY.com.
Well, in the past, a child's dream may have been to become president. And now they're saying, well, I want to be a mayor. News 4's Rachel Yonkunas is live in our studio now to explain why it's the mayors who are doing business with China and why the Chinese are interested in Dothan. Rachel?
Many people don't realize, Tessa, that economic activity is happening at a local level. Chinese companies are expanding to the U.S., and Dothan Mayor Mike Schmitz is making sure his community will see benefits. 4 Southern mayors and a judge. They're on a mission in China's top cities to reach out to foreign economic developers. Their 10-day trip starts in Beijing at an outbound investment summit.
They could feel our community through the way that we portrayed it on our mayor's forum, how great it is, and they want to come and visit us.
Visit, invest, and create jobs. But when you compete globally, you have to start at the top. The Southern delegation met with Chief Executive Officer of Hong Kong, C.Y. Larn. George Harris is legal counsel for Sozo Group, an advisory and economic development company that spearheaded the mayor's trip.
To be able to sit down with the Chief Executive Officer of Hong Kong, which is basically the president of Hong Kong, in his residence, it would be sort of like sitting down with the President of the United States.
This is a historic building where they received foreign dignitary. In fact, Mayor Schmitz sat in the seat that former President Bill Clinton once sat in. Jill Swain is mayor of Huntersville, North Carolina. She says they're meeting open ties between the Far East and the Southeast.
He's looking at economic development, but at a level that's much higher than the level we're looking at But when it comes down to it, we're all looking for the same thing. We want jobs for our citizens. We want a better quality of life. We want to really position our communities to be global.
The mayors are considering Chinese investment because American manufacturers aren't expanding. Alabama is a frontrunner for these companies because of its fertile environment. Linda Young is a global partner for the Yonkunas law firm, which organized the investment seminars.
Talking about manufacturing industry, as far as we know, Southern America is the best choice. That's why, we take delegation to Dothan. Having the mayors with us, it can deliver stronger information to the Chinese entrepreneurs.
Schmitz says that information is mutually beneficial.
They just want to improve their lives, grow their businesses, have successful businesses, and make a better life for their children. Same thing we want to do. And plus, it all comes down to creating good paying jobs.
Chinese leaders enjoyed the charismatic banter between the Southern mayors.
Enjoyed being with all the folks in the trip, and the mayor of Dothan, Mike Schmitz, who's a fantastic friend of mine.
And couldn't ignore their strong message.
We're here first, and I think we're blazing trails, and that's pretty significant.
Now, the trip wasn't all meetings. The mayors visited multiple factories, and Mayor Schmitz learned more about the 3D printer company that recently visited Dothan. We'll explain more about those companies tomorrow on News 4 at 5.
Rachel, that was so interesting to see exactly what was happening during that trip. Thank you so much for that. And that 3D printer company, which is called Nanjing Electronics, is the largest company that manufactures 3D printers. They've actually sold 300 printers in the U.S. already, and Mayor Schmitz says the company would be a really good fit for Dothan. You can check out WTVY.com for more on this trip overseas.
While in China and Hong Kong, Dothan Mayor Mike Schmitz met hundreds of Chinese CEOs looking to expand their industries in South Alabama. News 4's Rachel Yonkunas was the only journalist to travel with the mayor. She's live in our studio now to talk business overseas. Rachel?
Reg, there's a big cultural difference when doing business in China. Building relationships is a must, and that's why the Southern delegation crammed 6 cities into 8 days. Industrial China is rapidly entering a new era. While overseas, Mayor Schmitz visited several facilities and saw some of those changes firsthand.
The whole world's changed in China. The infrastructure costs have gone way up. They now have 800 million middle class. Their wages have gone way up. They're capitalists.
He met exclusively with Lian Ning, general manager of Nanjing Electronics, which donated 3D printers to Wallace Community College and Dothan Technology Center. Now, a deal is in the works to bring a 3D printer factory to Dothan.
Because I have such a good impression about Dothan, so this time, during the November trip, I'm looking forward to have a better understanding of this city. And later on, organized by Solar Group, we will work with Solar Group to maybe invest there.
Sheldon Day is mayor of Thomasville, Alabama. He signed a deal for a $100 million facility with Golden Dragon. The copper manufacturer will employ 300 Alabamians.
Huge impact on the economy in Alabama.
But these deals don't happen overnight. Day courted Golden Dragon for 3 years.
It's kind of like dating and getting married. Most people don't just elope and go get married anymore. They date for quite a while and then they decide to get married. Well, that's very much somewhere in the economic development ring now.
But without the machine, what we do is... Juliana Lamb is managing director of a large brand name glove manufacturing facility. I met her at a charity event in Hong Kong. Lamb says her company may expand to Monroeville, Alabama.
Since most of my customers are located in the States, so it just came to me as a why not, to have something. For me, it's not a move back, but to actually go in and actually start something and partner with the local people.
Smaller cities like Dothan are appealing to these Chinese business leaders because they have more room for growth, and that means the company has enough jobs to employ people in the entire region. Many of these companies make U.S. products for Walmart, North Face, even Nike. While Chinese business leaders hope to expand to the U.S., legal challenges loom.
There can be certain federal laws, particularly in the national security area, that require review of that company. It's not specific to China, but there have been a few high-profile Chinese companies that have been reviewed.
One in particular is Huawei, the largest telecommunications company in the world. Washington accuses Huawei of being a national security threat, but they opened their doors on a Saturday to meet the mayors. Founders say they're a private company.
It is owned by the employees in China, by their employees, which is unusual. I thought that as an American concept.
And want to join the U.S. market like everyone else. The Southern delegation also visited steel and car manufacturers. Sozo Group CEO Raymond Chang set up these meetings. Through his business, they can work out possible investments. Reg?
All right, Rachel, thanks a lot. Now, tomorrow, we're going to explain why the trip was not all business and what the Chinese thought of the Southern mayors. Now, if you'd like more information on the business trip, just visit our web channel, WTVY.com. China is still a communist country, but overseas, the Southern mayors learned the U.S. and China are not that much different. News Source Rachel Yonkunas joins us live now in the studio to explain. Rachel?
Thanks, Reg. Communism versus capitalism. The topic creates friction that dates back decades. But the Chinese were more than impressed with the mayors from Alabama and North Carolina on this trip. In fact, they were the ones greeting us at the airport. A 10-day trip across the world's second largest economy isn't all business. The mayors found their values mirrored in the Far East. Mike Kennedy is mayor of Monroeville, Alabama. Last year, his city hosted the U.S.-China Manufacturing Symposium.
They're like us, you know, and they have the same concerns. And I mean, I can imagine if I was starting a business or a company in China and how hard it would be and the questions that I would have. And I really admire them for, you know, stepping out.
While in Hong Kong, the mayors attended a gala event for the Earth Pulse Foundation, a charity helping local communities in poverty. That's where I met founder Hing Chow. He says education might bridge both sides of the world.
If we can create a multi-level partnership between the universities in Alabama and with the government as well as research institutes in Mongolia, but also Hong Kong, I think we can do something quite interesting.
Quite interesting. And quite different. Entrepreneurs at the event say the mayor's visit symbolizes a unique outreach. They think these new relationships can also combat poverty, terrorism, and other world issues.
In the last several tens of years, in the whole world, we try to make some big steps, try to stop something to do something bold. So we're saying that a simple step, a baby step, could really make a big impact.
Jian Guofu works with China Energy Conservation and Environmental Protection. He says the big impact can fuel international economies.
China and the U.S. market complete each other in trade area. And hopefully through Sozo Group, we can help more small, medium, and also private company to invest in U.S. and build a good image of Chinese business.
Although the mayor's trip focused on business, their new friendships sparked humanitarianism. Philanthropist Ronnie Chan is most noted as chairman of the Asia Society, an institution on all things Asia. He says business is a great start, but not just for profit.
Money cannot solve all the problems in the world. But without money, most of the problems cannot be solved either. So businessmen, if they are at all in any form, shape, successful, it will make some money.
U.S. and Chinese leaders agree. Knowing is step one.
The question is, what do you do with those money?
Deciding what to do with that knowledge comes next. Now, Alabama is home to more than 400 international companies, but business with the Chinese is still fairly new. Tomorrow, we'll hear more from both sides on what could happen if these countries work together. Reg?
All right, Rachel, thanks a lot. Investment, besides, I should say, rather investment, the mayors discuss educational and social issues with Chinese leaders. Also, one CEO wants to open her tea shop in Dothan to better educate students on Chinese culture. To learn more about the mayor's trip, just log on to our web channel, WTVY.com. Building bridges between the U.S. and China is really a new way of doing business, and these relationships can go a long way. News Source Rachel Yonkunas was the only journalist to travel to China with Dothan Mayor Mike Schmitz and the Sozo Group for a 10-day trip. She's live in our studio now to explain how this sets the tone for future endeavors. Rachel?
Reg, the Southern delegation met hundreds of Chinese CEOs, some of whom are part of the Communist Party. They have their suspicions about American business, but they spoke honestly about it. The United States and China have a financial relationship that shapes the global economy, but it doesn't go much further than that. Business leaders say the countries trade, but still don't trust each other. That could be the result of years of miscommunication.
There's a lot of uncertainty and misunderstanding between our two cultures.
People are constantly talking about China, but there's so much diversity that people are not aware of.
Greg Norris is county commissioner and probate judge from Monroe County, Alabama. His small-town heart never dreamed of traveling abroad.
To tell you where I grew up, my last name is Norris, and Rachel, I grew up on Norris Avenue. You can't get any more home than me.
But now he wants to help others open their minds to the Chinese.
I embrace Chinese direct investment, just like I would Mercedes, Hyundai, Honda, TK, Airbus. Those have been very, very good for the state of Alabama, and direct China investment will be good for us too.
This new way of doing business, building relationships, sharing similar values.
People in Alabama is extremely friendly and very, very caring for their family, just like how, like us who care for our family.
Might be the beginning of mending a fractured relationship and building a financial alliance. Philanthropist Ronnie Chan explains the world is traveling a new direction.
Mankind is faced with one of the greatest opportunities that our generation and many generations before and after will see. And that is, we have never lived in a time when the East and the West are both relatively successful.
Successful and powerful, but still at odds. The U.S. and Chinese governments have different viewpoints on major issues like foreign policy, national security, and human rights. But when the Southern delegation looked at the people from the People's Republic of China, it felt a lot like looking in a mirror. Lucia Wang is CEO of Northeastern China CEO Club, a club made up of communist and diplomatic elite.
We know that in China and elsewhere as well, we have so many so-called fallen civilizations. So if you don't want to preserve it now, then they are endangered to be lost forever.
If we can install the training and education with that, where they can go with jobs in the future, I think it's going to be a great fit and a great future.
A future worth considering.
If we don't get together, we will increase misunderstanding and we'll all be fried.
This trip paved the road for the upcoming symposium on Monday. Political leaders from the Far East and the Southeast will attend, and Sozo Group CEO Raymond Chang says they have an all-star lineup of speakers. Reg?
All right, thanks a lot, Rachel. As Rachel just told us, November's symposium is next Monday, the 11th. Registration starts at 8 a.m. The larger symposium in March is going to run from the 26th through the 28th. And for more information on Mayor Mike Schmitz's trip to China, you can visit our web channel, WTVY.com.